Howard when he was Prime Minister on a number of occasions. Whoever leads the Nationals is a matter for the National Party. That's always been the case. My job as the Premier is to provide the people that I'm passionate about governing for strong and stable government. And every decision I take, every decision I make is about providing strong and stable government.
So you continue to govern with John Barilaro. How can the Cabinet stay intact when you've got ministers publicly undermining the Cabinet process if John Barilaro is still the leader of the National Party?
Well, my job is to protect the Cabinet process, which is why I took the action I did last week. And my job is to provide strong and stable government for the people of this great state. And that's exactly what I intend to do. We have a lot at stake in New South Wales. And I want to thank the ministers that are here with me today for demonstrating a 24/7 commitment to working hard on behalf of my government for the people of this great state. And that is my expectation of everybody. Focus on what we need to focus on. It's been difficult for all of us this year. No matter where we live in New South Wales, this is a time when we've come together, and all of us have to remember that. I'm Premier of New South Wales, not one part of the state or another, but the whole state. My ministers are working, doesn't matter which party you're in, doesn't matter which seat you represent. We have a commitment as a government, as a cabinet, to govern for everybody. And this is about us bringing everybody together. And that's what we need to do during these challenging times. Look, as Premier, my responsibility is to work with the Leader of the Nationals and the Deputy Premier, and that's what I'll always continue to do. But it's not for me to decide who or what that person is. That's a matter for them. Well, at the end of the day, as I've said, that's a matter for the National Party to deal with. As far as we're concerned, our focus is providing strong and stable government.
How would you describe John Barilaro as a person and how you've dealt with him over the past number of years?
Oh, look, I think there's sufficient comment on the record for me to talk about that. At the end of the day, my commitment is first and foremost to the people of this state, and I hope I've demonstrated that every day that I've been in this job. We don't always get it right. But I'm passionate about making sure the people of this great state know that I'll take any decision or course of action I need to be the best government we can be for them when they need us the most, whether it's the bushfire victims that are still recovering, whether it's those that have been impacted by drought, and whether it's every single person in this state who's affected by COVID in one way or another. At no time in our state's history have our residents relied on us more than now. And I just want to reiterate my commitment that I will not shirk my responsibility, but actually reinforce it at every opportunity to make sure people know that my government is here to govern for them, and that's the focus I want everybody to have.
How close were you on Friday to going down to Government House and replacing?
Everything was ready, and I want to make that very clear. We'd made arrangements that if I needed to take that course, I would have, and I want to make that very clear.
You gave an ultimatum to John Barilaro and the National Party to back proper cabinet process or be sacked. Now you've got senior ministers who are speaking out against the cabinet process, saying they cannot work with the leader of the National Party. Will you give them the same ultimatum?
Can I say every single member of cabinet has continued to talk about making sure we govern and provide strong and stable government. What I don't want is people of any description to think they can publicly air issues at the risk of creating any sort of distraction for the community. This is a time when all of us have to come together. This is a time when I, as Premier, have to make sure we are the best government we can be, and our track record speaks for itself. And I want to make sure that we redouble our efforts and make sure our communities know they come first. The people of this state come first. No single person, no single agenda. This isn't about one issue. This is about how we govern. And I want to make that very clear. And I've made my views very clear. This is about us putting our communities first and the people of this state first. That's a commitment I made when I made my oath of office as Premier. And I will do everything I can to do the best I can on behalf of my government. And I'll continue to govern in that way.
Premier, just on border closures with Queensland, you've spoken to Anastasia Palaszczuk, you've spoken of your relationship with her. We heard some comments from the Prime Minister on Ray Hadley recently, your comments to the Premier of Queensland. Of course, there's only 9 infections again today, very low numbers. Would you say again to the Premier to consider opening these borders, and is it just political now?
Look, I've said it from the start. We actually have 5 community transmissions today, all but one from existing household contact. So our rates of transmission in New South Wales remain very low, and that's our intent. But we don't know when a vaccine will be found, and then once a vaccine is discovered, I know there's rays of hope on that, and there's lots of people around the world working on that. And once the vaccine is determined, there's still a question of how you access it and how long that will take. So in the meantime, we have to live with COVID, and we have to make decisions based on what are in the best interests of our citizens. But none of us want to see unnecessary heartache. When you have case numbers so low, I just appeal to the Queensland Premier to say to her personally, when community transmission numbers are so low, in fact, one day last week, I think Queensland had more than we did in terms of community transmission. Why is the border closed? I just do not understand. And the same for WA. I want to thank the South Australian Premier. I want to thank the Chief Minister of the Northern Territory for indicating a path forward in allowing New South Wales residents to go to their jurisdictions. But I don't understand when case numbers are so low, why you would even have borders up, especially when you hear those heartbreaking stories of people separated from their relatives. And I know a lot of us are looking forward to Christmas and spending time with those we care about and love the most. But many people won't be able to go home and visit their relatives or see their kids or grandkids. Now, that is unnecessary heartache. Things are bad enough and difficult enough for us to deal with. And I just appeal to my colleagues, please think about the medium and long term, think about people's heartache, and let's try and reduce stress of our citizens, not exacerbate things.
It's a very powerful conversation between Ray Hadley and the Prime Minister. Do you happen to hear it?
Oh, look, I actually spoke to the Prime Minister about it afterwards. He was quite, I don't want to take, repeat private conversations, but he was personally impacted. We all are, because, just wait for the plane to go past. No, it's a different one. Oh, is it yours, Peter? Yeah, probably. Oh, are they? I have to say the most difficult thing during COVID, the most difficult thing for any leader is to have to make decisions which you know are going to be really difficult for your citizens to have to deal with. And so during the course of the pandemic, you try and get the balance right. You try not to make decisions that are going to unnecessarily hurt your citizens. And I think having a border between Queensland and New South Wales is unnecessarily hurting citizens on both sides of the border, not just people on the New South Wales side. And that's why with Victoria, we worked hard to increase the latitude of the border communities. There's now essentially 50 k's either way, so a 100-kilometre border community between Victoria and New South Wales, because we want to make sure we don't unnecessarily cause any angst, so that people who live and work and educate their children on either side of the border or get health services have that access. We've worked hard to try and be as compassionate as we can, and I just appeal to the Queensland Premier to do the same. Well, that's what he said, but we've got lots of things on our cabinet agenda.
Mr. Constance, what compromise did you reach with Mr. Barilaro in your meeting on Friday? There's conflicting reports saying that Mr. Barilaro capitulated to have no change to government policy. He suggested that change would see this considered by Cabinet.
Well, James, you've been in so many press conferences where I've said what I said before last week and what I said afterwards. I think you can refer to my previous comments.
There was no compromise.
Well, just refer to my comments.
New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian speaking a short time ago in Sydney, saying that she is a strong coalitionist. Of course, it comes after the Deputy Premier John Barilaro's failed coup to overturn a Liberal Party policy on koala conservation last week. She says that whoever leads the Nationals is a matter for the National Party, but her main job is to protect the cabinet process.